Hello, my lovely soul, and welcome to Unstoppable Confidence. I am your host, Lauren Glick. I am here to bring you my energy, my motivational speaking, and me being a confidence mentor. My mission is to inspire women to own who they are, step into their higher selves fearlessly, and live a life with unstoppable joy. On this show, we are going to cover everything from aligning your life to your higher self, setting boundaries, self-growth, and living a purpose-driven life. Let's get you living a meaningful life you cannot wait to wake up to. Stop driving and start living with ease and abundance. Cheers to living a magical life. And I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Now, let's head into today's episode. Hello, my love. And today we have Katie Brinkley on, and I absolutely love her and her knowledge. She has been on social media and started networking and helping others use social media as that driving force within marketing and networking and building your business and building your connections. That's networking, Lauren. But yeah, she started on MySpace. So if you're younger, one of the younger listeners, MySpace was like the OG platform of social media. Katie started helping people way back 18 years ago with social media and how you could use it to grow your presence, grow your reach, grow your connections. So this is definitely one of those episodes that you must listen all the way through because we talk about social audio, we talk about NFTs. I know that stupid word NFTs that everyone keeps talking about, but it's more of a why rather than how. If you need to know how, you could always DM me. You know that. I'm at the Lauren Glick. You could DM me and be like, how do I do this? Because yes, I've bought into a number of different projects, but not the driving force of anything. So anyways, on that, would love for you to keep tuning in and see you on the other side. Hello, my lovely. And today on Unstoppable Confidence, we have a phenomenal guest who, shocking, I met through Clubhouse. Katie Brinkley, I am so stoked to have you here today. Would love for you to introduce yourself to the listener today. So the mic is yours, Katie.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me on your show, Lauren. I know that we've been trying to get this done for a while.
I know.
But I'm really excited that it finally worked out and here I am, and that Clubhouse brought us together.
I know. And that's the exciting part because you have been on social media for so long and helping others really strategize in the social media game. So you know so much about different platforms. So I'm really excited to dive in, especially to social audio platforms today and your thought process behind like the individual ones. And we could kind of, I want to say like banter back and forth about them.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. I've been doing social media for a really long time. It's been 18 years now. And when I tell people that, they're like, well, social media even been around that long?
Yeah.
And yep, it has. I got started back with MySpace.
And that's crazy. Like, and that's the thing is that I know you were going to go into it, Katie, because it's like, how in the world did you even see like the opportunity to start helping others really grow their businesses or themselves as influencers way back in MySpace days?
Yeah, and that was the thing is I worked at the college radio station. So I went to a Division II college. I played softball in college, and I love Michigan. I love Michigan football. That is a story for a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
But people are like, wait, you didn't go to Michigan? And no, I didn't. I went to Fort Lewis because I played D2 softball, and it was a great opportunity for me because I had the opportunity to do so many things. And one of them was work at the college radio station. I wanted to be a sports reporter when I graduated from college. And one of the jobs that you could do and classes you could take was working at the college radio station. So I was assistant news director, the sports director, and I was one of the music directors. And when you are a music director, almost 2 decades ago, they didn't have all this digital download stuff. This was in the Napster days. And I know.
I don't even know if there's really young people listening to this. So should we describe Napster really quickly?
Yeah. I mean, like you had to go in and you got to download music off of the internet for free, and none of the artists got paid. And it was all this, hubbub
Drama,
yeah. And Facebook was around, but it was only for colleges and universities.
I remember that. You had to sign in with your college.
With the .edu. Yeah. And you know what? K.E. Hansen at fortlewis.edu would not be accepted. Nobody from Fort Lewis could get on Facebook, because I don't know if it was because we were D2 or what, but we couldn't.
That's interesting, because my college as well, I had to go in and request that my college would be accepted into Facebook.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it's very similar to Clubhouse with that FOMO aspect, but I was all in then on MySpace. And so I'm getting back to the radio station now. So I was on MySpace. I was a music director, and I had to get bands and musicians to send me their music for free, because we're a college radio station. We couldn't pay royalties for playing their music on the air. And everyone was writing these handwritten letters and then mailing them out with a manila envelope to send the music back as a CD.
How funny.
And I was like, this seems like a giant time suck.
Yeah.
Why would I just do this, write all these letters and stuff? I'm just going to go on MySpace, because MySpace was huge for bands.
Yep.
And so I started networking on MySpace, and I found all these musicians, these bands and these artists that were willing to not just send me their music, but send me their some t-shirts, some stickers, some extra CDs, autographed, stuff like, hey, maybe you guys can come through here and play. And I was just building these relationships. And the station manager came to me and said, how are you getting all of this punk music in the radio station? Because I was really into punk. And I was like, I'm just asking them on MySpace. And it was kind of a light bulb moment, because I was like, maybe I could see what else I could get from these guys. And so it's like, hey, if I send your music off to the radio stations in Denver, because I had worked at a number of radio stations in Denver as part of my internship, would you be willing to give me some concert tickets? And so it definitely evolved, and it was all, hey, if I do this for you, can you get me into your show? And it was great, because I built relationships with different bands like Yellow Card, and I'm in California, you guys are playing Warped Tour, and I would just get free tickets, backstage passes, or whatever. And it was great for a college kid, to get to go see live music for free and have all these friends that were in bands. And it worked out great for them, because they were getting their music out there and on the radio. So that's how I got started.
Interesting, Katie. I have never heard that story, and it makes so much sense. And you were like the brain behind it all. So I absolutely love that story. Because today it's so common,
Yeah. And I mean, it back then, nobody was really doing it. We were all just worried about our top 8 and who could be sitting up there.
100%, and when you kick one of your friends off because you have a new friend, it would be all this drama. And
it would, and I think that back then, none of us realized the behemoth that social media would be. Today, nobody had any idea. I think when Twitter came out, we all thought that was the end of Facebook. And then when Instagram came out, that was the end. But all these social media platforms have stayed around. And I always had an interest in social media, because I saw that there was a really strong power to get your message out there and make a community around your business online without having to do the expensive websites, without having to worry about, doing a bunch of paid advertising. Social proof was a very real thing. And from the get-go.
And I think you make a really good point, because I know you help individuals with each individual kind of platform that suits them the best. And for me, being pretty brand new, I say pretty brand new because I've been on social media for 2 years, and that's pretty flipping brand new. I mean, I was on MySpace back in the day, but to run a business, it's only been about 2 years. And when you're helping your clients with their individual platforms, for you yourself, are you, because I was listening to another podcast yesterday and they were talking about always being able to like be on having a presence at least on each individual platform. Is that something that you do? Even if you're like not very present, say on TikTok, you still kind of just throw one out every once in a while. Like, what are your thoughts on having that presence on at least
Yeah. And I think that this is the thing. Like, I do think that I'm in a minority when I say this, where you don't need to be on every single social media platform known to mankind. I don't think that you need to. And if you are, then you're just going to get burnt out, because all of these social media platforms exist for a reason. There's different ways to post on them. There's different ways to engage on them. And to do it effectively, you need to post the way that platform wants you to post. So, I was on TikTok back during the pandemic, and it was just me and my best friend across the street, being silly and doing like silly videos. And it was so much that I was, when the world opened, I'm like, I don't have time to add this in with addition to and I get it. Reels are very similar, like Instagram Reels are very similar, but it is a different sort of, sound. It's a different sort of reaction. And I mean, things work differently on these platforms. So I'm a big proponent of finding 2, maybe 3 platforms that resonate with how you do business the best. For me, social audio and podcasting made perfect sense. But then like the other 2 that I'm really active on are LinkedIn and Instagram, like for my business, because Facebook just wasn't moving the needle for me. TikTok, I didn't have time for. Reddit is not my jam. Snapchat is not my jam. So I mean, and you'll find if you take a step back and really look at your insights and look at where you're getting the most traction, it'll become pretty clear as to where your audience and your community is.
I love that. You just definitely answered my question. I was going to ask you, what are your top like 2 to 3 platforms? So LinkedIn and Instagram, correct? And that third is the podcasting or
social audio. Talking. Talking. And I think that too, Lauren, like with Instagram and LinkedIn, I do think that those are 2 of the best places for organic reach still outside of TikTok. I mean, like with Instagram and LinkedIn, you can still, like, LinkedIn is like 2014 Facebook. Whereas if you like a post, it'll be shown out into your friends' feeds. And if you whereas the algorithm on LinkedIn is very, very engagement friendly, where with Facebook, if you have a business page, if you have 1,000 followers, it's only going to be shown between 1% and 3% organically. And it's kind of like, well, should I be on Facebook? And for me and my personal business, the answer was no. Now I have clients that are killing it on Facebook. So it really just depends on who your demographic is and where you're getting the most traction.
When you're helping a client with really finding, and that's the thing, we'll go into social audio after this, but when you're helping a client really decide on an individual platform, what is like one of the predominant questions you're asking a client to really figure out what platform is best for them? Because if you have clients that are killing it on Facebook, were they already doing that before they found you, or how does that work out?
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes they've already had a strong presence on a platform, but there's other times where we're working with a startup and they have nothing. And that's kind of just looking at the basic demographics for each platform. And by all means, there's people that are 60 plus that are on Instagram and TikTok. And, there's people that are 18 on LinkedIn. So, I mean, there are those, rarities, but I definitely feel like for the most part, there's certain demographics that always gravitate towards one certain type of platform.
That makes sense.
If Instagram is your platform of choice, I just saw a statistic on it. It was like 98% of people that are on Instagram are on an additional social media platform. So whereas if, what was the statistic on LinkedIn? The LinkedIn one was like, if you're on LinkedIn, you're only on LinkedIn. That's the only social media platform that you're on. So
interesting.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting too. And I wish I had the exact number for you. If I would have known I was going to be giving off statistics, I would have prepped a little bit more. But I mean, like, no, it's really interesting because it depends on who your demographic is. And, once you figure out who your ideal client customer is, and if they're on that platform, how can you craft that content differently between each, like let's say LinkedIn and Instagram, how can you show up on LinkedIn and still repurpose that post onto Instagram effectively? So
yeah, and that's interesting to me because, being, and the listeners here today, they definitely are like that newer entrepreneur. So really fine tuning like what platforms we get to use is just an interesting topic for sure.
oh yeah. I mean, and yeah, I
go
mean,
ahead.
like, no, I was just gonna say, like, all these platforms exist for a reason, and you're gonna post something on Twitter very differently than the way that you would show up on LinkedIn. So it does make sense to look at what traction and where you enjoy being, because that is part of the social media gamut. You have to be active and engaging and social on these social media platforms in order to get traction.
Yeah, completely agree. And to kind of pivot a little from there, within social media, we have this new-ish, because it's been around for a while, especially podcasting as a social audio platform. Because I know we met on Clubhouse, so I would love to go into social audio, what you think about the individual platforms, because we were both really active on Clubhouse a year ago, and it was stellar with networking and the quality of individuals on the app. It was ridiculous a year ago. I remember last December when I got on, I was like, this is unreal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you go up and talk to Paris Hilton and Grant Cardone and Bill Gates, and who wouldn't want to be on an app like that?
I know, like Elon Musk, like no big deal, just chatting it up with them today. So that's
Well, and that was some of the draw. I mean, like it was similar to Facebook only being for certain colleges and university. They had that FOMO aspect, and then it's open for anyone. I want to be on there, you know. So the FOMO was huge. Having the celebrities join, that was huge, and the pandemic, Lauren. I mean, I definitely feel that if this app were to come out in, February of 2020, or, even 2019, or even, now, I don't think that it would have the same traction that it did as when it came out. And well, it came out in March, officially, I guess, but it really blew up in December of 2020. And that's when I joined. That's when you joined. And I think that people were craving the connection. I mean, think about it. If you're, well, and maybe you're different, but if my mom calls me when I'm working, I'm not going to call her back. I send her a text and say, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And so many of us got into the habit of just, it's faster to send a text message. It's just faster to do this than actually talk to somebody, so all of us got into that habit. And then when the pandemic happened and we were, at home with just our immediate families, we all missed that interaction, the interaction with strangers, talking to new people and hearing different perspectives. And then you throw in this invite only, celebrity filled, audio app where anyone can talk or he'd be a fly on a wall for a conversation that, between millionaires that, it's sharing business tips. Of course it was going to be a huge success. And then, life got back to normal. And people didn't have 8 hours a day to spend listening to strangers and talking to strangers. And when more and more people started getting off the app because they didn't have time to give anymore, people then who were on were saying, well, wait a second, there's no good rooms. Well, it's because not as many people are creating content. And how can you do that? And it's by starting your own room. So, I mean, that's really the only way it's going to get back to where it was. But I definitely feel like social audio it has a strong market. It absolutely has a strong market, because I mean, 100%. Otherwise, look at LinkedIn audio events, Facebook audio rooms, Twitter Spaces, Reddit has its own audio feature.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Discord has an audio room feature. There's Fireside, there's Wisdom. I mean, there's tons. And if with all of these platforms coming, these separate apps coming out, I think that it's something to pay attention to. And the fact that these big name apps like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook have launched the feature, it shows that they believe in the fact that sometimes people just want to talk. They don't want to have a video conversation. They're tired of seeing video. Zoom fatigue is a very real thing.
Yeah, I believe so too. And that's interesting you say that, Katie, because the only one that I haven't personally dove into is the Facebook audio. But other than I was be like, other than Facebook audio, which
Well, so
one?
no, but the reason you probably haven't dove into it is because
Yeah.
they set theirs up very differently. They set it up for people that had groups. So if you have a group, you
I
could do the audio
do.
feature. But I mean, majority of the time in those groups, your group members are used to seeing you go live and they're used to seeing you on video. I remember I was in one group and she was doing an audio room and all these people were in the messaging her saying, hey, your camera's off. Nobody understood that it was like an audio room. They're like, hey, we can't see you.
That's really kind of funny.
It is really funny. But I was like, oh, yikes.
I was like, oh
they're
God,
not ready.
Facebook.
They're not ready.
Yeah, Facebook, you can't just throw something out like that if you don't explain it.
Well, and also, I mean, we met people on Clubhouse. One of them, she was in charge of producing some of these Facebook audio rooms. And it was definitely more of a produced live podcast with celebrities. Like they had like Carmelo Anthony and Lala and all these people that are big names hosting these audio rooms. And then people could go listen to the live conversation. So it was set up a little bit differently than a Clubhouse.
Interesting. That was the only platform. And I knew it was connected to Facebook groups, but I had a Facebook group. And that's the thing. It was like, there's too many platforms. And that was the one that I was just like, it's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
And within the social audio platforms, which one is your like go-to right now? Is it still Clubhouse for you?
For the audio platforms?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely sprinkle my time between audio spaces because there are so many of them. And I definitely have the strongest following on Clubhouse. So I host 1 or 2 rooms a week still on Clubhouse, but and I host one fireside room a week, but it's a completely different type of topic that I'm talking about on Fireside than I am on Clubhouse. And I think that that's where the strategy, if you want to have social media or social audio a part of your marketing strategy, you do need to have a strategy behind it, because then otherwise you're just wasting your time.
Oh, 100% completely agree. And have you gone on to LinkedIn Spaces? Because I've joined a number of rooms. I haven't started my own on LinkedIn, but have you? And what are your thoughts on LinkedIn Spaces?
Yeah, so I've attended a number. I have not done my own LinkedIn space. I definitely feel like this is the thing. I think all of these audio spaces are unique in their own way. They all have their own different feel and their own different type of content that's being created for them. So Fireside is that live video podcast where you can have audience, participation.
Yeah.
This is what's worked for me. That it's conversation driven. LinkedIn, I definitely feel is more educational, of course. And that makes sense, where you can get 3 to 4, maybe 5 people in the similar industry, and you can have a discussion educating your audience on topic ABC. Facebook, I think, is definitely more produced and, than what we've seen in the past. And it is available in groups, but I definitely feel like groups are used to seeing live and audiences. And so in Twitter Spaces, man, that is for breaking news and crypto NFT talk.
Oh, gosh.
Crypto has taken over Twitter. And which is, it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's really, I think, kind of revitalized Twitter and the spaces. It's given these NFT artists and communities this a space to really feel seen. So they're all different, and you have to, it's just like with social media, you have to look at it and say like, okay, where is my target audience and how am I going to find the most, I guess, bang for my buck on my time. Yeah. For the time I'm pushing out there to create this content.
I completely agree. And interesting that you mentioned Twitter Spaces for crypto and NFTs. I believe that NFTs are classified as Web3.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Web3, and what are you, I was expecting to talk about social audio a little bit more, but I was listening to a podcast yesterday about Web3 and really just kind of leaning into the unknown and just
Mhm.
going with it. What are your thoughts on NFTs and Web3 and what like is Web3?
Well, yeah,
If you know, Katie.
yeah, so here's the thing, Lauren. When Facebook turned into Meta,
Yeah.
I think everybody in the social media space was like, all right, I got to pay attention, or at least I did. I was
did
like,
too,
okay.
yeah.
And I mean, that's where I was like, I'm going to have to pay attention to this. And it makes sense. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg has the Oculus VR. And, I was talking with a friend that I met on Clubhouse,
Yeah.
and she and so I was like, I don't understand. Like, why would I want to buy a piece of digital art? And
Yeah.
we were talking about, she's like, well, my daughter's really into the Oculus, and she'll put them on and play her games or whatever. But and she'll watch movies. And I was like, wait, she'll put on these giant bulky goggles just to watch a movie? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And she's like, well, just think, like, I live in Seattle, and if she wants to, she could be here in the mountains with you and have a roaring fire and be watching her TV in this nice giant mansion. And I was like, and that was like a light bulb moment. I was like, you can have your house be whatever you want. And like on my wall here, like I have some pictures, and no one's going to see it unless we're doing a video, or if they come here and actually look at my wall. That's how a lot of these NFTs will be. And you can showcase your NFTs on your virtual wall in your virtual house when your friends come over to watch the virtual movie. Or you can go to an event, and like, so I have a couple NFTs. Like, one of them is a 90s babe, and I could show up at a 90s babe conference as my avatar. I can walk around, and this is what I would look like. And I could see the other avatars in real life, and real quote unquote life.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, and these are just kind of the beginning of like, well, this is what could happen. And what I really like about NFTs is that you're buying into a community. You're buying into it's just like a Facebook group, really. You're buying into people that have a similar interest with you. So like the 90s babe, there's a lot of women or people that identify as women in that community that are born in the 90s, like grew up in the 90s. So like seeing like a Furby or seeing a CD, with that being held, like, it's like, oh, that's so cool. You got the Furby, or I wanted the Tamagotchi. Cause that's all stuff.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it is all these different things that like, we're all the same. Like, we're all women that grew up in this time, and tell me more. And I'm with my tribe, even though I might never meet them in real life. And that's what I think the pandemic really showed us, is that whether or not we are able to go and meet people in real life, or if we need to have that online community, we have to have it going forward in case something like this were to ever happen again. And we're shut in our house. Like, we don't have that feeling of isolation.
That's interesting because, just conversations like this are, I think, really important, especially to lean into the unknown and where the future is going to be going with Web3. Because I started learning about NFTs from Clubhouse. And gosh, what is her? Nikechi. She got me into my first NFT, The Matrix, which, I didn't know anything about it, but there was a huge hype, right? And it opened the door for me to start leaning in a little bit more. I personally don't do anything with those NFTs that I bought. They were pretty inexpensive, and I mean, the whole Warner Brothers is behind it. So it is a good NFT to have, and they will have a lot of funding to move forward with that project. But the one that, just like you were saying, which it just clicked a light bulb in my head of, that makes so much sense. It's like that community, you're buying into community of like-minded people. I bought into an NFT called the Collation Crew, which it helps, they're cheetahs. They're really cute. But it's more about helping endangered species, especially cheetahs. And there's a lot of like beach cleanups and where they're going. And they have a huge presence on Twitter Spaces, and they do a lot of community engagement already. Like they have speakers come in and we have Zoom calls. So I should lean into that community a little bit more, Katie.
Yeah, no. And I mean, like, and you'll find like, that's the thing is like, so I have a diamond dog, which is Evan Mendoza from the St. Louis Cardinals. It's his NFT. And for me, it made perfect sense because of my sports background. And, I was like, okay. And they're cute. And, it's a cool community to be a part of because everyone's interested in sports, and we can talk about, still talk about, NFTs and social media, but it's, still talking about sports and being active. And so that one made a lot of sense for me to join. And so I think that, you're buying a piece of the blockchain or, and you're buying, like my dad was like, that's so stupid, Katie, you're buying a piece of clip
digital art.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, no, you're buying you're a space to belong in, and you're, of other like-minded people. And I definitely see things continuing to evolve. And I mean, who knows? Maybe NFTs will go away, but it's been a really interesting thing to learn about for how you can find people and find community online, because that's really what social media is all about, is finding your people.
Yeah.
Online.
And that's so true. And because you have so many different NFT projects that you can buy into, but really understanding who's the founder behind the project and what they are going to be doing with that project. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. It makes so much sense. And like listening to everyone else's thought process about them, like, it can go away. A lot of projects will, but at the same time to understand that, hey, this is what's going on now, and leaning into the unknown. And it's either you're risking going into the project and with NFTs, or you're risking not as well. So there's a risk either way. And I would rather learn about something and, figure that out. But that was an interesting turn on a conversation, Katie, that I really was not expecting.
Well, it does make sense. I mean, I think it makes sense because with what we've seen from the pandemic, social audio came out, and it really had an effect on how much we crave talking to other people, those coffee shop conversations. We wanted to meet people online, and NFTs are kind of the next step of like, okay, well, so how else can you find your community? What else do you all have in common? And with Instagram, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why social audio really took off too, is because people were tired of seeing just a bunch of beautiful graphics and professional photos and, stock imagery and stuff. And they wanted that real, authentic connection. And you can get that with voice. And
100%.
These NFT communities, it's very, very similar. All of you have something in common. All of you are authentic about what your passion is. That's why you bought into this community, So
okay, 2 more questions. One is on, because I remember back in the day being on Clubhouse, and there was like this rumor that Instagram was going to start audio as well. Did you hear that, or was that just a rumor that never really started?
I hope it doesn't happen. As it is, like Instagram's
keeps
already
changing.
It's changed so much over the past, year and a half, and it's hard to keep up with. And so I think that what they're doing, stop changing. There's a reason why TikTok exists. There's a reason why Facebook exists. There's a reason why LinkedIn exists. There's a reason why Instagram exists. You don't need to be everything, stay in your lane.
Agreed. And the last question, just for the wrap up, right, Katie, is where can people find you? Because you've given so much great advice today and knowledge. Where can people find you, and how can people work with you?
Yeah, so I'm on social media.
That's crazy.
So if you want to connect with me, so I'm on Clubhouse. You can find me on Clubhouse at Katie Brinkley. On Instagram, I am Katie Brinkley. LinkedIn, Katie Brinkley. There's a trend with my name. And then if you want, I connect with me online. I do have a free guide. It's like 26 pages long on how to sell effectively in the DMs without being sleazy or spammy. And you can get that at katiebrinkley.com/social sales.
I love it. Katie, thank you again for being on today. You have your knowledge within social media, obviously, and I love how you just combined it all of social media together today. So thank you again for all of your knowledge. And if you are listening today and want to connect with Katie, go check her out on all of her social media, because she's obviously that guru with all the experience of 18 years being on social media and helping network and market for you. So on that, go check her out and we will catch you on the episode. So thank you again, Katie.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. I hope you are so excited about where you're going, because I know I'm excited for you. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you shared it with a girlfriend or posted it on social media. Tag me so I could personally say thank you. I am so grateful. And until next time,